With 77 minutes left before the biggest game of his life, a young man was racing toward the arena. He saw an old man collapse on the sidewalk. Immediately he pulled over, knelt beside him, and stayed until the ambulance arrived. Realizing the man had no family with him, he went to the hospital as well, only to learn that without a rare blood type, the man wouldn't survive, and he was the only match. He chose to donate, fully aware it meant missing the game that could define his future. But he had no idea that this single act of kindness would change his life in ways no one could have ever imagined. Before we continue, tell us what time it is and where you're watching from, subscribe and hype because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The Saturday afternoon sun hit Tyrone Matthews' windshield at the worst possible angle, forcing him to squint as he guided his car down Harrison Avenue's familiar potholes. His phone rested in the cup holder, quiet for now, but he knew that wouldn't last. Coach Henderson had already texted twice. The third message asking where the hell he was would come any minute. 77 minutes until tip-off. Tyrone's hands were steady on the wheel, but his mind raced through plays, defensive rotations and Riverside's starting lineup. They were good, dangerously good, with a 6'8" center who could shoot threes and a point guard already committed to a Division I program. Beating them wouldn't take luck. It would take everything, and the scouts would be watching. James Peterson from Lincoln University had seen Tyrone play twice already. One more strong performance, Coach Henderson said, might be enough for a full-ride scholarship. Division I basketball, a way out of Maple Street, out of generations of just getting by. His mother had picked up a double shift to buy him new shoes. His grandmother had been praying non-stop, lighting candles at New Hope Baptist and organizing a prayer circle just for this game. Half the neighborhood would be in the stands with handmade signs, no pressure. Tyrone turned down the radio and focused on his breathing, slow and controlled, just like Coach taught them at the free throw line. He'd been preparing for this moment since he was 12, since his father Earl first took him to the community center and taught him that basketball wasn't just a game. It was discipline, it was a language, it was a way forward. He remembered Earl's weathered hands correcting his shooting form, that calm voice reminding him, "You can run faster than anyone else, son. But there'll come a time when you have to stop, and how you stop, that's what shows who you really are." Earl had died 5 years ago, leaving a promise behind Tyrone would go further than he ever could. 75 minutes now, Tyrone checked his mirrors and changed lanes, planning his route. Straight down Harrison to 5th Street, then left toward downtown. 15 minutes in weekend traffic, maybe 20 if he hit the lights wrong. That would put him at the Civic Center around 1 o'clock, giving him 30 minutes to warm up, get taped, go through his pre-game routine. Plenty of time. The neighborhood sliding past his windows was changing, had been changing for years. Coffee shops replacing corner stores. Young professionals jogging where kids used to play. His grandmother complained about it constantly, rising rents, long-time neighbors selling out and moving to cheaper suburbs. Progress, some people called it. Displacement, others said. Tyrone tried not to think about it too much. He'd be gone soon anyway, off to Lincoln University if today went well. If he could just get there. His phone buzzed. Tyrone glanced down. Marcus, his teammate and best friend since freshman year. "Where you at?" Coach asking Tyrone dictated a response while keeping his eyes on the road. "Almost there. Relax. Better hurry." Henderson's in rare form. That was saying something. Coach Henderson was always intense on game days, but championship games brought out a special kind of controlled fury. He'd spent 18 years coaching at Westside Community College, had sent exactly 3 players to Division I programs in all that time, and he wanted Tyrone to be number 4 with an urgency that bordered on obsession. "This is your shot," Henderson had told him yesterday after practice, gripping his shoulders hard enough to bruise. "Our shot. You show Peterson what you can do, you get that scholarship, and you prove that kids from this neighborhood belong at that level. No excuses, no distractions. Just basketball. No distractions." Tyrone was so focused on that phrase, on Henderson's intensity, on the 73 minutes remaining, that he almost didn't see the old man fall. Almost. It happened in his peripheral vision, a sudden wrongness in the normal Saturday afternoon tableau. An elderly white man in khaki pants and a cardigan, probably mid-70s, carrying 2 canvas grocery bags. One moment upright on the sidewalk. The next moment stumbling, bags flying, body crumpling with the terrible momentum of dead weight hitting concrete. The sound, a meaty thud that Tyrone felt in his chest, cut through the closed windows and the hum of the engine. Tyrone's foot hit the brake before his conscious mind made any decision. The Honda Civic jerked to a stop, earning an angry horn from the sedan behind him. His hazard lights went on automatically, muscle memory from driver's ed. The old man wasn't moving. Around him the sidewalk was suddenly horrifyingly busy. A woman in yoga clothes glanced over, kept walking. A businessman on his phone looked, frowned, looked away. A teenager on a skateboard swerved around the fallen figure without slowing. Blood was pooling beneath the old man's head, dark and spreading on the pale concrete. Tyrone looked at his dashboard clock, 12:43, looked at the man on the ground, looked at the Civic Center, 15 minutes away, and heard his father's voice, clear as if Earl Matthews was sitting in the passenger seat. "You can run faster than anyone else, son. But there'll come a time when you have to stop, and how you stop, that's what shows who you really are." 72 minutes until everything he'd worked for. One old man bleeding on a sidewalk. Not really a choice at all. Tyrone killed the engine, popped his door and ran. The man's eyes were open but unfocused, pupils dilated with shock or pain or both. Up close, the head wound looked worse, a deep gash above the left eyebrow, blood matting gray hair, already swelling. The grocery bags had spilled their contents across the sidewalk, a can of soup, a loaf of bread, oranges rolling into the gutter like small suns. "Sir?" Tyrone dropped to his knees, careful not to jostle the man. First aid training from health class kicked in. Don't move, potential spinal injuries, check for breathing, call for help. "Sir, can you hear me? I need you to stay still." The man's lips moved, no sound came out. Tyrone's phone was already in his hand, 911 already dialing. The weekend had turned surreal. He was supposed to be thinking about pick and rolls and defensive switches, not emergency response. 911, what's your emergency? I need an ambulance at Harrison and 5th. Tyrone's voice was steadier than he felt. Elderly man, fell hard, hit his head on concrete. He's breathing but there's a lot of blood. He's conscious but doesn't seem oriented. Ambulance is 4 minutes out. The dispatcher's voice was professionally calm. Stay with him. Don't attempt to move him unless there's immediate danger. Is the bleeding severe? Tyrone looked at the expanding pool of red. Yeah, it's bad. Apply pressure if you can, but be gentle given the head injury. What's your name, sir? Tyrone Matthews. Okay, Tyrone, you're doing great. Keep him still and calm, help is coming. A small crowd had started to form, the kind of gathering that happens when something breaks the normal flow of urban life. The yoga woman had stopped, was offering a bottle of water. The businessman had ended his call and was asking if anyone knew the victim. 2 college-age kids were filming on their phones, because of course they were. Tyrone took off his Westside Community College warm-up jacket, the navy blue one with gold lettering that marked him as an athlete worth watching, and gently draped it over the old man's torso. The afternoon wasn't cold, but shock could cause chills. "You're going to be okay," Tyrone said, more for himself than the victim. "Ambulance is almost here, just stay with me." The old man's hand suddenly shot up, fingers wrapping around Tyrone's wrist with surprising strength. His eyes found focus, locked onto Tyrone's face. "Please," the word came out wet, slurred. Don't leave me." And there it was, the thing that made this not just a good deed but a commitment. "I'm not going anywhere," Tyrone heard himself promise. "I'm right here." "What's your name?" "Robert." Each word seemed to cost him. "Robert Hartley." "Okay, Robert, I'm Tyrone. You fell and hit your head pretty hard, but help is coming. Can you tell me what hurts?" "Head. Everything." Tyrone's phone was buzzing in his pocket. He ignored it. 12:47 now. 68 minutes until tip-off, but that was starting to feel like it belonged to a different universe, a different version of himself who had simpler choices. The ambulance arrived in 3 minutes, 37 seconds, Tyrone counted without meaning to. Two paramedics, one woman with red hair pulled back in a severe bun, one older man with the efficient movements of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. What happened? The woman was already kneeling, checking Robert's pulse, examining the head wound with practiced hands. Tyrone gave them the rundown: the fall, the head injury, Robert's disorientation. He stepped back to give them room to work, but Robert's grip on his wrist tightened. "Sir, I need you to let go so we can help you," the male paramedic said gently, trying to pry Robert's fingers loose. "No." Robert's voice was stronger now, edged with panic. "Stay, please stay." The female paramedic glanced at Tyrone. "You family?" "No ma'am, I just stopped to help." "He wants you here." "That's good." Familiar faces help with shock. She was putting a cervical collar on Robert, moving with calm efficiency. "We need to get him to Memorial Hospital. This head wound needs stitches, and given his age, we'll need to do a CT scan." The male paramedic was checking Robert's vitals, frowning. "Sir, are you on any medications? Blood thinners, heart, medication?" Robert's breathing was labored. "Warfarin. Forfeif." The two paramedics exchanged a look that Tyrone didn't need medical training to interpret. Blood thinners plus head trauma equaled potential disaster. "We need to move fast," the woman said. "Possible internal bleeding. Memorial ER, priority transport." They were loading Robert onto a stretcher, professional and swift, when the old man's hand found Tyrone's wrist again. "My son." Each word was a fight. "Someone, call my son." "Phone, in my jacket." The male paramedic was already rifling through pockets, pulled out a smartphone in a leather case. "What's his name?" "David. David Hartley." Robert's eyes were starting to lose focus again. "Please, he needs to know. He'll worry. Please." The paramedic held up the phone. "We'll call him from the hospital, sir. Right now we need to." "No." The panic was back, elevating Robert's blood pressure in a way that made monitors beep. "Now. Has to be now. Please." Tyrone looked at his own phone. 12:57. 63 minutes until the game that would determine his future. The Civic Center was 15 minutes away. He could still make it if he left right now, could still warm up, still play, still impress the scouts. But Robert's hand was shaking on his wrist, and the old man's eyes held the particular terror of someone who'd looked death in the face and barely escaped. "I'll call him," Tyrone said, taking the phone from the paramedic. "I'll make sure your son knows what happened and where you're going." The relief that flooded Robert's face was so profound it was almost painful to witness. Thank you, son." They loaded him into the ambulance, monitors beeping, the female paramedic calling ahead to Memorial's ER with medical codes Tyrone didn't understand. The doors closed, lights flashing, the ambulance pulled into traffic and disappeared around the corner, leaving Tyrone standing on the sidewalk holding a stranger's phone. The small crowd dispersed as quickly as it had formed. Crisis over, nothing more to see. The yoga woman gave him a thumbs up. The businessman nodded approval. The college kids were probably already uploading their videos to social media. Tyrone stood there for a moment, grocery bags still scattered around his feet, evidence of a life interrupted. He picked up the can of soup, the loaf of bread, gathered the oranges that hadn't rolled too far, placed them back in the canvas bags, because leaving them felt wrong somehow. His phone erupted with notifications. "Marcus, where are you? Deshaun coach is asking. Game starts in 1 hour. His mother, baby, I'm at the arena. Everyone's asking about you." And then Coach Henderson, "Matthews, you better be on your way. Scouts are here." 1:02 p.m. 58 minutes. Tyrone looked at Robert's phone in his hand, found the contact labeled David, son, and pressed call. 4 rings. Each one felt like a door closing. "Dad," the voice was cultured, concerned, with the particular timbre of someone used to being in charge. "Is everything okay? You usually call from the landline." Tyrone took a breath. This was the moment. After this call, there would be no going back, no pretending he could still make it to the game on time. "Mr. Hartley, my name is Tyrone Matthews. I'm calling about your father. There's been an accident." 20 minutes later, Tyrone sat in the emergency department waiting room at Memorial Hospital. The time was 1:22 p.m. The championship game had started 2 minutes ago. Without him, his phone had stopped buzzing. that somehow felt worse than the constant notifications. It meant everyone had given up on him showing up. The game was happening. Life was moving forward, and Tyrone was sitting in a plastic chair holding a stranger's phone, waiting for a son he'd never met. He'd called his mother from the car. That conversation had been brief, painful. "Baby, where are you?" "Hospital." "The man Robert, he's really bad, Mama. They think he might have internal bleeding because of his blood thinners. I had to make sure his son knew." Silence. "Then you're not coming to the game?" "No, ma'am." More silence. When she spoke again, her voice was thick with tears. "Your father would have done the same thing." "I know, but Mama, I just threw away everything. The scholarship, the future, all of it. You threw away one future. Maybe that means there's a different one waiting. Now you stay there until that man's son arrives. You hear me?" "Yes, ma'am." The automatic doors whooshed open and a tall man in an expensive suit burst through, his face tight with fear and urgency. Mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, the kind of commanding presence that made people step aside. "Robert Hartley," he told the receptionist, his voice cracking. "My father, head injury. Ambulance brought him in about 20 minutes ago." Tyrone stood. "Mr. Hartley." David turned, taking in Tyrone's appearance. Young black man in basketball, warm-up pants, WCC thick shirt, expensive sneakers that didn't match the worry in his eyes. "You're Tyrone, the one who called me?" "Yes, sir." David crossed the distance between them in 3 strides and pulled Tyrone into a hug. Sudden, fierce, completely unexpected. When he pulled back, there were tears in his eyes. "Thank you, God. Thank you for stopping. For staying with him. For making sure I knew." His voice broke. Is he going to be okay?" Before Tyrone could answer, a doctor in scrubs emerged from the treatment area. "Family of Robert Hartley, that's me." David's hand found Tyrone's shoulder, gripping hard. "I'm his son. I'm Dr. Smith. Your father is stable for the moment, but we need to discuss his condition. Can we talk privately? Anything you need to say you can say in front of Tyrone. He's the one who saved my father's life." Dr. Smith glanced at Tyrone, then nodded. "Your father has a severe laceration that required 17 stitches. The CT scan shows no brain bleeding, which is fortunate given the blood thinners. But there's a complication." David's face went white. "What complication?" "Your father has lost a significant amount of blood. Normally, this wouldn't be critical. We'd transfuse and monitor. But he's on warfarin, which prevents clotting. And his blood type is AB negative." "What does that mean?" "AB negative is the rarest blood type, less than 1% of the population. Our blood bank is critically low right now. We've called every hospital in the region, but with multiple trauma cases this weekend." Dr. Smith's expression was grave. "We need compatible blood within the next 2 to 3 hours, or your father's condition will deteriorate rapidly." David's knees buckled. Tyrone caught him, held him upright. "I'm O positive," David said. "I know because I tried to donate during his last health scare. I can't help him." "Other family members?" "My mother passed 3 years ago. I'm an only child. My father's siblings are all deceased." David's voice was rising with panic. "Are you saying we need to find someone with AB negative blood in the next few hours, or my father dies?" "We're doing everything we can to locate donors, but yes, time is critical." Tyrone's heart was hammering. He heard himself speak before his brain caught up. "Test me." Both men turned to stare. "What?" David asked. "Last year I donated blood at a community drive at New Hope Baptist. They told me I was AB negative, said it was rare that I should donate regularly." Tyrone looked at Dr. Smith. "Can you test me, see if I'm compatible?" Dr. Smith was already moving toward the door. "Follow me. We can run a rapid screening right now." 10 minutes later, Tyrone sat in a small testing room while a lab technician drew blood. Through the thin walls he could hear muffled sounds, monitors beeping, doctors calling orders, life and death happening in real time. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Game just ended. We lost by 8. Henderson is destroying lockers. Where are you?" Tyrone didn't respond. What could he say? That he was at a hospital about to find out if he could save a stranger's life. That he'd already given up the championship game and might be about to give up even more. David appeared in the doorway, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 20 minutes. "They said the test takes 15 minutes. That's what they told me." David sank into the chair beside Tyrone's. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You were supposed to be somewhere, weren't you?" David finally asked. "When you stopped to help my father, a basketball game, championship. Scouts were supposed to be watching me, were supposed to be. Game started 25 minutes ago." Tyrone gestured to the IV in his arm. "And even if it hadn't, I'm about to find out if I'm giving blood. Can't exactly play basketball after that." David stared at him like he was trying to solve an impossible equation. "You're giving up a championship game with scouts watching to potentially donate blood to save my father's life. If I'm compatible, yeah. Why, you don't know us. You've already done more than anyone could expect. Stopping, calling the ambulance, making sure I knew. Why would you do this too?" Tyrone thought about Earl Matthews, about lessons learned in community centers and at kitchen tables, about what it meant to be a man his father would be proud of. Because he needs help, and when someone needs help, you help. That's what my father taught me. What about your future, your scholarship? My future will figure itself out. Your father might not have 2 hours. The lab technician returned, her expression neutral but her movements quick. "Mr. Matthews, you're AB negative. Perfect match. The doctor wants to talk to you about donation." Dr. Smith appeared within seconds. "Tyrone, here's the situation. Mr. Hartley needs 2 units of blood, possibly 3 depending on how his body responds. A standard donation is 1 unit, which will leave you weak and dizzy for 24 to 48 hours. 2 units is more than we typically take from a single donor, but given the emergency and the rarity of the blood type, I need to ask if you're willing. What are the risks? Significant fatigue, possible dizziness, low blood pressure. You'll need to rest for at least 48 hours. No strenuous activity for a week minimum. There's also a small risk of complications, but given your age and health, it's minimal." Tyrone looked at David, who was openly crying now. "How long will it take?" 2 hours for 2 units. Maybe 2.5. 2 hours. The game would be long over. His teammates would have played without him. Henderson would have written him off. The scout would have left. Every door to the future he'd imagined would be closed. "Let's do it," Tyrone said. The donation process felt surreal. Tyrone lay on a medical bed in a quiet room, watching his blood flow through tubes into collection bags, while David Hartley sat in a chair beside him, refusing to leave. "Tell me about your father," David said after the first unit had been collected. "The one who taught you to help people." So Tyrone did. Told him about Earl Matthews, construction worker who'd built other people's houses for 40 years while raising a son and serving his community. About the lessons learned on basketball courts and at family dinners. About a philosophy that put people before achievements. "He sounds remarkable," David said when Tyrone finished. Does he know what you're doing today?" "He died 5 years ago. Heart attack while helping a neighbor fix her fence." Tyrone's voice was steady, the grief worn smooth by time. "But yeah, he knows. And he'd understand this choice. Even though it's costing you everything. Especially because of that. My father used to say that character is what you do when it costs you something. Easy to be good when it's convenient. Real character shows up when doing right means losing something you want." David was quiet for a long moment. "I need to tell you something. Before you leave here, before you make any decisions about what happens next, you need to know who I am. You're Robert Hartley's son, that's all I need to know. I'm also the vice president of basketball operations for the Portland Thunder, professional basketball team." Tyrone's brain stuttered. "What? And I sit on the board of trustees at Lincoln University. I know James Peterson, the scout who was at your game today, or was supposed to be at your game." David leaned forward, his voice urgent. "What you did today, stopping for my father, staying with him, giving blood when it meant losing everything. That tells me more about your character than any basketball game ever could." "I don't understand what you're saying." "I'm saying that sometimes what looks like an ending is actually a beginning. But we'll talk about that later. Right now you need to rest and I need to see my father." The second unit took another 90 minutes. By the time they finished, it was 4:15 p.m. The game had been over for more than an hour. Tyrone felt hollowed out, physically and emotionally. The nurse made him drink orange juice and eat crackers before letting him sit up. "Take it slow," she warned. "You just donated twice the normal amount. You're going to be weak and dizzy, no driving for at least 6 hours. No strenuous activity for a week." David helped him to a wheelchair, hospital policy for blood donors, and pushed him down the hall to Robert's room. The old man was pale, hooked up to monitors and IVs, but his eyes were clear and focused when they entered. "You," Robert said, his voice stronger than it had been on the sidewalk. The young man who stopped, "How are you feeling, Mr. Hartley?" "Alive, because of you." Robert's eyes moved to the bandage on Tyrone's arm, the medical bracelet marking him as a donor. "My son told me about the blood, about your game, about what you gave up. I didn't give up anything that mattered more than helping you. That's not true, and we both know it." Robert reached for Tyrone's hand. "That game, that scholarship, that was your future, and you traded it for the life of an old man you'd never met. Why?" Tyrone thought about how to explain Earl Matthews to someone who'd never known him. "My father used to say that life gives you moments where you have to choose who you're going to be. That success doesn't mean much if you get it by running past people who need help. Today, I chose who I wanted to be. Your father raised you right." Robert's grip tightened. "I'm a retired English teacher, Tyrone. Taught at Riverside High for 43 years. In all that time I never encountered a clearer example of true character than what you showed today. Not in literature, not in life. You young men are the real thing. You don't owe me anything, Mr. Hartley. I'm just glad you're okay. I owe you everything, and I promise you my son and I were going to make sure your sacrifice wasn't in vain." When Tyrone finally left the hospital, David had called him a car, refused to let him take the bus in his weakened state. It was nearly 6 p.m. He'd been gone for more than 5 hours. 5 hours that had changed everything. The car dropped him at his grandmother's house on Maple Street. His mother's car was in the driveway, his grandmother's ancient Buick beside it. They'd left the game early, had probably known before he did that his absence meant more than a missed opportunity. The front door opened before he could knock. His mother stood there, eyes red from crying, and pulled him into her arms without a word. Behind her, his grandmother Doris appeared, 75 years old, 5 feet tall, and tougher than anyone Tyrone had ever known. "Come inside, baby," she said. "You look like death. When's the last time you ate?" "Hospital gave me crackers." "Crackers?" Doris shook her head, already moving toward the kitchen. "Sit down. I'm making you food. Then you're going to tell us everything." They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Earl had taught Tyrone about life, about community, about character. And Tyrone told them everything. The fall, the ambulance, the hospital, the blood donation. The choice he'd made twice in one day. When he finished, both women were crying. "You did what your father would have done," Doris said, her voice fierce with pride. "Exactly what he would have done. But I lost everything, Grandma. The scholarship, the game, my future. Coach Henderson left me a voicemail. I haven't listened to it yet, but I know what it says. That I'm off the team, that I quit on them." "You didn't quit, you chose." His mother squeezed his hand. "There's a difference." "Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks the same. No game, no scholarship, no future in basketball." Doris stood up, walked to a drawer, and pulled out a faded photograph. She set it on the table in front of Tyrone. It was Earl Matthews at a neighborhood barbecue, surrounded by people, smiling, relaxed, holding a plate of food while talking to someone off camera. "Your father took this picture 2 weeks before he died," Doris said. "See all those people around him. He'd helped every single one of them at some point. Fixed Mrs. Patterson's fence. Helped the Johnsons move when they couldn't afford movers. Taught half a dozen kids how to read when the schools failed them." She tapped the photo. "He died with $63 in his bank account. Never made more than $40,000 in a year. Never owned anything fancy or impressive, but look at his face. Look at how happy he is." Tyrone looked. His father's smile was genuine, unforced, the expression of a man at peace with his choices. "You think he regretted not having more money? Not achieving some definition of success that somebody else made up?" Doris shook her head. "He told me once, about a month before he died, that he'd lived exactly the life he wanted. That helping people mattered more than having things. That character was the only success that lasted. But Grandma, I need to eat. I need to help the family. You need to remember who you are." Doris's voice was sharp. "You're Earl Matthews' son. You're not here to chase somebody else's definition of success. You're here to live your values. And today, you did exactly that. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Dude, the video of you helping that old guy is everywhere. 5 million views. People are calling you a hero. But Henderson is still furious. Says you quit on the team. I'm sorry, man. 5 million views. Tyrone's stomach turned. He didn't want to be famous for this. Didn't want his private choice turned into public spectacle. Another text, this one from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Matthews, this is David Hartley. My father is resting comfortably. Doctors say he'll make a full recovery, because of you. I know today was devastating. I know you feel like you lost everything, but please, meet with me Monday, 10 a.m. I'm sending you an address. This is important, don't give up hope yet. Below the message was an address downtown, Cascade Athletic Center. What is it? His mother asked, seeing his expression. David Hartley wants to meet Monday, at the Cascade Athletic Center. Doris's eyes sharpened. That's the Portland Thunder's headquarters. I know, I don't understand why he wants to meet there. Maybe you should find out. His grandmother smiled, that knowing smile that said she saw something he didn't. Your father used to say that when one door closes, God opens a window. You just have to have the courage to look for it. That night, lying in bed in his childhood room, Tyrone listened to Coach Henderson's voicemail. He'd been putting it off, dreading the confirmation of what he already knew. Matthews, this is Henderson. I'm calling you once and once only. You quit on this team today. You quit on your teammates, on me, on everyone who believed in you. I don't care what your excuse is. Nothing is more important than showing up when it matters. You're off the team. Don't bother coming to practice Monday. In fact, don't bother coming back at all. As far as I'm concerned, you don't exist. The message ended. Tyrone deleted it. He pulled up the video Marcus had mentioned. Sure enough, there he was, kneeling beside Robert on the sidewalk while people walked past. The caption read, "College basketball player gives up championship game and donates blood to save stranger's life." The comments were a mix of supportive and skeptical. This is what real heroism looks like. He threw away his future for nothing. We need more people like this. Hope that old man was worth destroying his career. Tyrone closed the app. He didn't want to read anymore. His phone buzzed again. An email this time from David Hartley. Tyrone, I've spent the evening making calls. To James Peterson at Lincoln. To other coaches I know. To people in the basketball community. I wanted to understand what today cost you. And it cost you everything. The Lincoln scholarship is gone. Committed to another player. Henderson has blacklisted you with every coach he knows. The video is viral, which means you're famous, but not necessarily in a way that helps your basketball career. I'm sorry, this isn't fair, but please meet with me Monday, 10 a.m. What you did today matters more than you know, and I think I can help. David Hartley. Tyrone read it 3 times. What kind of help could David offer? The scholarship was gone. Henderson had destroyed his reputation. The basketball world had moved on without him. But something in David's message, what you did today matters more than you know, made him curious. He typed back, I'll be there. Thank you for taking care of your father. That's all that matters. He hit send, set his phone aside, and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in this city, Robert Hartley was recovering because Tyrone had stopped, because he'd chosen character over championship, service over self, doing right over getting ahead. And that had to count for something. It had to. I did what you taught me, Dad, Tyrone whispered to the darkness. I stopped when someone needed help. I chose right over easy. I hope that was enough. No answer came, just the quiet sounds of Maple Street, at night, distant traffic, a dog barking, the house settling into sleep. Tomorrow would tell if sacrifice led to redemption or just to loss. Tomorrow would show if doing the right thing still mattered in a world that rewarded achievement over character. Tomorrow would change everything. Again, Monday morning, Tyrone stood in front of the Cascade Athletic Center at 9:45 a.m., wearing the suit his mother had insisted on buying yesterday. Navy blue, well-fitted, making him look older than 23, making him look like someone who belonged in a building like this. Except he didn't feel like he belonged anywhere. Sunday had been brutal. The video had exploded to 10 million views. News outlets were calling, wanting interviews. His phone hadn't stopped ringing until he'd finally turned it off at midnight. But worse than the attention was the silence from the basketball world. No calls from coaches, no interest from programs, just Henderson's blacklist spreading like poison through every network that mattered. Tyrone had spent Sunday afternoon at the rec center, shooting alone, trying to process what his life had become. Marcus had shown up eventually, sat in the bleachers watching. "You know half the team thinks Henderson is wrong, right?" Marcus had said. "We think you did something incredible. Henderson's the one with the connections. His opinion is the only one that matters. Maybe, maybe not." Marcus had stood to leave, but for what it's worth, I'd rather play with someone who has your character than someone who's just talented. Character matters, Ty. Eventually, it matters. Now standing outside the Thunder's headquarters, Tyrone wasn't sure Marcus was right. The lobby was even more impressive than he'd imagined. Championship banners, trophy cases, photographs of legends. This was a temple to basketball excellence, and Tyrone was a kid who'd walked away from a community college game. Tyrone Matthews, a woman in her 30s, approached, professional and efficient. "I'm Rachel, Mr. Hartley's executive assistant. He's expecting you, if you'll follow me." The elevator ride was silent. They rose through the building, and Tyrone watched the city spread out below. Maple Street, somewhere in that sprawl, his grandmother's house, the rec center where Earl had taught him to play. The distance felt like more than miles. David Hartley's office occupied the top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view that made Tyrone's breath catch. The city laid out like a map, every neighborhood visible, every possibility displayed. "Tyrone," David stood from behind his desk, came around to shake hands. He looked tired but relieved. "Thank you for coming. How are you feeling?" "Still recovering from the donation." "I'm okay, a little weak, but okay. How's your father?" "Coming home today. Doctors are amazed at his recovery. They said if you hadn't donated when you did." David's voice cracked. "He wouldn't have made it. You saved his life twice in one day. I'm just glad he's okay." "Sit please." David gestured to a chair. "We have a lot to discuss." Tyrone sat, trying not to fidget, trying to look like he belonged in a space this expensive. David didn't sit behind his desk. Instead, he took the chair beside Tyrone's, closing the distance, making this feel less like a business meeting and more like a conversation. "I've spent the last 48 hours making calls," David began, "trying to understand what Saturday cost you. And Tyrone, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, the cost was significant. The Lincoln Scholarship is gone. Henderson has poisoned your reputation with every coach he knows. The video made you famous, but not in a way that helps your basketball career. Most programs see you as unreliable, someone who'll prioritize other things over basketball." Each word landed, like a physical blow, even though Tyrone had expected them. "So why am I here?" Tyrone asked. "Because I've also been watching your highlight reels, studying your game, talking to people who've seen you play." David leaned forward. "You're good, Tyrone, really good. Not the most athletic player, but smart, disciplined, with high basketball IQ. The kind of player who makes everyone around him better. That doesn't help me now, maybe not in the traditional path, but there are other paths." David pulled out a folder. "I can't give you back that Division I scholarship. That door closed, but I can open a different one." He opened the folder, showed Tyrone papers with league names and tournament schedules. Tyrone had never heard of. Semi-pro circuits, underground tournaments. Some are sanctioned, some aren't. They're rough, physical, not glamorous. Players are hungry, desperate, fighting for second chances. But it's where scouts still show up, where talent still gets noticed, where guys who took unconventional paths can prove themselves. "Why would you help me with this?" David was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with old pain. 30 years ago, I was a college point guard. Junior year, projected second-round draft pick. We had a teammate, Marcus Thompson, who was struggling. Family problems, academic issues, barely hanging on. He came to me one night, asked if I'd help him with tutoring, with getting through a rough patch. David stared out the window. I said no. I was too busy with my own training, my own future, my own career. Told him to figure it out himself. He paused. Marcus dropped out 2 weeks later, fell into addiction, died of an overdose 7 years ago, and I've carried that guilt every single day since. The knowledge that if I just helped, if I just stopped what I was doing, and been there for someone who needed me, maybe he'd still be alive. David turned back to Tyrone. Then I saw you stop for my father when everyone else kept walking. Saw you give up everything, the game, the scholarship, your future, because someone needed help. And I thought, this is what I should have been. This is the man I failed to be. He held out the folder. I can't fix what I did to Marcus, but I can make sure your choice doesn't destroy you. I can mentor you, train you, introduce you to people who matter, get you into games that count. But Tyrone, I need you to understand something. This path is harder than Division 1. No guarantees, no safety net. You'll be playing against men who have nothing to lose and everything to prove. You'll get hit hard, you'll question everything, and there will be days when you wonder if you made the wrong choice. And if I say yes, then we start training tomorrow. And I mean real training, not college ball, but the kind of work that turns good players into great ones. You'll learn to play through contact, to protect yourself, to dominate without losing your character. And maybe, if you're willing to put in the work, we'll find a path forward. Tyrone looked at the folder, at the tournament schedules and league contacts. At this unexpected window opening, where a door had closed. When do we start? David smiled. 6 a.m. tomorrow, West Side Rec Center. Don't be late. The first 3 months were hell. David hadn't been exaggerating about the underground circuits. The games were brutal. Men in their 20s and 30s who'd missed their shot at the big time, who played with the desperation of people who knew this was their last chance. They hit hard, played dirty, tested Tyrone in ways college basketball never had. He went home every night, covered in bruises, questioning everything. You're thinking too much, David would tell him during their daily 6 a.m. training sessions. College ball taught you to play within a system, to wait for the right play. This level, you have to be willing to create, to dominate, to take what's yours. But that wasn't who Tyrone was. He'd been raised to be a team player, to share the ball, to make others better. Then you'll fail, David said bluntly after a particularly bad loss in month 2. Listen, I'm not asking you to become someone you're not, but there's a difference between being selfless and being passive. You can have character, and still play with an edge. Your father, he worked construction, right? Was he soft? No sir. But was he cruel? Never. That's the balance you need to find. Play hard without playing dirty. Dominate without disrespecting. You can do both. Slowly, painfully, Tyrone learned. He took a job working construction during the day, 40 hours a week hauling materials, the same kind of work Earl had done. The money was decent, kept him from having to borrow from his mother, but more importantly, it reminded him where he came from. His body adapted to the schedule. 6 a.m. training with David, work from 7 to 4, games at night, 3 to 4 times per week, film study and recovery on Sundays. It was exhausting, brutal, nothing like the path he'd imagined, but he was getting better. By month 4, Tyrone had found his edge. He learned to anticipate dirty moves, to protect himself without retaliating. Learned to play physical defense without fouling. Learned to dominate through intelligence and positioning, rather than just athleticism. Word started spreading through the semi-pro circuits. There was a kid from Maple Street who played like he had something to prove, which he did. By month 6, scouts were showing up. Not many, just a few guys from Division II programs, international leagues, semi-pro teams looking for talent. David was careful. Don't jump at first offers. You're building leverage. The longer you dominate at this level, the better offers will come. One night in month 7, after Tyrone dropped 34 points, 13 rebounds and 10 assists in a championship game, a man in an expensive suit approached. Tyrone Matthews. Yeah, Marcus Garcia. I'm a scout for several Division II programs. Been watching you for a few weeks now. You interested in talking about opportunities? David appeared at Tyrone's elbow before he could respond. Mr. Garcia, Mr. Matthews appreciates your interest, but he'll need to discuss any opportunities with his representation first. Please leave your contact information. After Garcia left, David pulled Tyrone aside. Not yet. You're close but not ready. We need to get you in front of Division 1 programs, not Division 2. Trust the process. How much longer? However long it takes, but I think Chicago might be your moment. By month 9, Tyrone had won championships in 3 different semi-pro leagues. He was averaging 29 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists across all competitions. The video of him helping Robert had never died. It still resurfaced periodically, especially when media outlets did features on his underground journey. One local sports reporter did a long piece, From Sacrifice to Redemption, the Tyrone Matthews story. The article detailed everything: the choice to stop, the blood donation, Henderson's blacklist, the underground circuits. It painted Tyrone as someone who'd chosen character over success and was fighting to prove that choice hadn't been a mistake. The response was overwhelming. Emails from parents thanking him for showing their kids what mattered. Letters from other players who'd made similar sacrifices. Messages from people who'd faced impossible choices and wanted to share their stories. One letter stood out. From a high school player named Jordan Thompson. Dear Mr. Matthews, I was supposed to play in a tournament last month, but my neighbor's house caught fire and she needed help. I almost didn't stop because of the tournament. Then I remembered your story. I helped her, missed my game, but she's alive and safe. Thank you for showing me that some things matter more than basketball. Jordan Tyrone pinned that letter to the wall of his small apartment. David noticed it during one of their film sessions. Fan mail, something like that. Kid who made a similar choice. That's the ripple effect. Your choice isn't just about you anymore, it's about everyone watching, everyone learning that character still matters. David paused, which is why what I'm about to tell you is important. What? There's a showcase tournament in Chicago next month. 3 days, 40 teams, hundreds of scouts from colleges, professional leagues, international teams. I got you an invitation. Tyrone's heart hammered. Are you serious? Dead serious. But Tyrone, you're not going in as the kid who got screwed. You're going in as the player who earned his way up from nothing, who proved himself against the hungriest competition, who learned to dominate while keeping his character. David gripped his shoulder. This is your chance to kick every door down. You ready? Tyrone thought about 9 months of brutal games, endless practices, working construction during the day and playing basketball at night. Thought about Earl Matthews's voice. How you stop shows who you really are. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. The Chicago showcase was everything David had promised and more. Massive convention center, 40 courts running simultaneously, scouts everywhere with clipboards and calculating eyes. Tyrone's team was assembled from players across different semi-pro leagues. No chemistry, no history, just 5 guys trying to prove themselves against organized, well-coached competition. Remember, David said before the first game, you're not here to make friends. You're here to show every person in this building that writing you off was a mistake. Game 1 was against a prep academy team, kids who'd been groomed for Division 1 since middle school. They were cocky, dismissive of the underground player. Tyrone destroyed them. 26 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. His team won by 15. Scouts noticed. Game 2 was tougher against a team from a junior college program with multiple Division 2 commits. Physical, disciplined, running actual offensive sets. Tyrone adjusted, played smarter, not harder, distributed the ball, made his teammates better, picked his spots. 31 points, 9 rebounds, 11 assists, win by 12. More scouts, more notes, more attention. By Game 3, people were coming specifically to watch Tyrone play. The underground player with the viral video, the kid who'd given up a championship to save a stranger's life, fighting his way back through sheer determination. Game 3 was against the tournament favorites, a team assembled from players who'd transferred out of Division 1 programs. Talented, hungry, physical, Tyrone played the game of his life. 38 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists, a triple-double, lockdown defense. Leadership that made his thrown-together team look like they'd played together for years. They won by 17. After the game, scouts lined up wanting to talk. Tyrone Matthews, I'm with Northwestern State University, Division I program. We have a scholarship opening for next semester. Springfield Spartans here, professional league, international competition. We want to offer you a tryout. European leagues are interested, better pay than college ball. David materialized at Tyrone's elbow, professional and smooth. Gentlemen, Mr. Matthews appreciates your interest. Please submit formal offers through me. He handed out business cards. When they were alone, Tyrone stared at David. What just happened? What happened is you proved everyone wrong. Now you get to choose your path. David smiled. How does it feel? Surreal. 9 months ago I was working construction and playing pickup games. Now I'm choosing between Division 1 and professional contracts. That's what happens when you use adversity as fuel. David's expression grew serious. But Tyrone, remember, these offers aren't charity. They're recognition of what you became through the grind. You earned every single one. That night, Tyrone called his grandmother from his hotel room. Baby, I heard. Multiple offers. Professional contracts. Doris's voice was thick with emotion. Your father would be so proud. I don't know what to choose, Grandma. Division 1 means getting my degree, building something sustainable. But professional ball means money, helping the family. Stop. This isn't about helping the family. We're fine. This is about your future. Her voice was firm. What do you want? Tyrone thought about it. Really thought. I want to finish my education. Want to prove I can compete at Division 1. And I want to eventually come back to Maple Street. Maybe coach. Maybe teach. Build something that lasts longer than my playing career. Then you have your answer. Tyrone chose Northwestern State. Division 1 basketball, full scholarship, starting in January, spring semester entry for the player who'd taken the long way home. The media ate it up. From sacrifice to scholarship, Tyrone Matthews gets his second chance. But Henderson wasn't done. Chapter 7. Henderson's Reckoning. Coach Henderson showed up at Tyrone's apartment in mid-December, 3 weeks before Tyrone was set to leave for Northwestern State. Tyrone opened the door to find his former coach standing there, looking like he'd aged a decade in the 10 months since that Saturday. Smaller somehow, diminished. Coach, Tyrone, can we talk? They sat in Tyrone's tiny living room, really just a converted corner of a studio apartment, but it was his, earned through construction work and discipline. Henderson couldn't seem to look at Tyrone directly. He stared at his hands instead, working his fingers like he was trying to loosen something stuck. I owe you an apology, Henderson finally said. Hell, I owe you a lot more than that. Tyrone waited. When you missed that game, when you chose to help that man instead of playing, I was furious. I thought you'd betrayed the team, betrayed me, betrayed everything we'd worked for. I called you every name I could think of, kicked you off the team, told every coach I knew that you were unreliable. Henderson's voice cracked. I destroyed your reputation because I was angry that you didn't put basketball first, and I told myself I was right, that you'd made a selfish choice, that showing up matters more than anything else. Coach, let me finish. Henderson finally looked up, and there were tears in his eyes. 25 years ago, my mother had a stroke. She was in the hospital, asking for me, but I had a tournament game, not even a championship, just a regular tournament game, and I thought, she'll understand. She knows basketball is important. The apartment was very quiet, so I coached the game instead of going to the hospital. We won by 18 points. I felt vindicated, made the professional choice, the right choice. Henderson wiped his eyes. She died that night, while I was drawing up plays and yelling about defensive rotations. And you know what haunts me? My last conversation with her was me telling her I'd come see her after the game. She died thinking basketball was more important to me than being there when she needed me. Coach, I'm sorry. Don't. Henderson's voice was sharp. Don't apologize for my failures. I'm the one who needs to apologize to you, because when you stopped for that man, when you gave up the game to help someone who needed it, you showed me what I should have done. You made me face the fact that I'd been wrong for 25 years, that I'd chosen the wrong thing and convinced myself it was right. He pulled out an envelope. This is a letter I'm sending to every coach I spoke to. Every person I told that you were unreliable, setting the record straight, telling them what you really did that day and why. It won't undo all the damage, but it's a start. Tyrone took the envelope, not trusting himself to speak. I also spoke to the athletic director at Westside, told him I'm retiring at the end of this season. 25 years is enough. Henderson stood, offered his hand. And I recommended you as my replacement. When you're done playing, whenever that is, if you want to come back and coach here, the job is yours. Coach, I'm 23 years old. I've never coached. You've been coaching since you stopped for that man. You just didn't know it. Henderson's handshake was firm. You're a better coach than I ever was, because you understand what actually matters. Don't make my mistakes. Don't let basketball become bigger than being human. After Henderson left, Tyrone sat alone with the letter. He didn't open it, didn't need to. Henderson's presence, his apology, his obvious pain, that was enough. David called that evening. He'd heard about Henderson's visit through the basketball grapevine, the one that spread news faster than the internet. "How do you feel?" David asked. "I don't know. Angry, grateful, sad for him. All of those are valid. Henderson's apology doesn't erase what he did, but it takes courage to admit you were wrong, to face your failures publicly." David paused. "He's doing what you did, choosing character over pride. That's worth something." "Yeah, I guess it is." Tyrone enrolled at Northwestern State University in January, joining their Division I basketball program at 24 years old, older than most sophomores, carrying experiences most college players would never understand. The first semester was an adjustment. The team was ranked 18th nationally, had multiple NBA prospects, and expected deep tournament runs. Tyrone came off the bench initially, playing 15 to 20 minutes per game. Not spectacular, but solid. The underground circuits had taught him to play smart, to exploit small advantages, to make teammates better. He became the guy coaches trusted in crucial moments, not because he was the most talented, but because he never made the wrong play. The academic load was heavier than community college. Business management courses, economics, accounting. Tyrone studied like his life depended on it, because maybe it did. Basketball wouldn't last forever. By tournament time, he was starting. Northwestern made it to the Sweet 16 before losing to Duke. Tyrone's stats weren't eye-popping: 9 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists per game. But the team played better when he was on the floor, and coaches noticed. More importantly, the video of him helping Robert kept resurfacing. By now it had 20 million views. Media outlets would periodically check in on his redemption story. He did select interviews, carefully, always talking about Earl Matthews, about lessons learned, about character mattering more than championships. Sophomore year, Tyrone was a full-time starter, team captain, the steady hand that kept everything running smoothly. Northwestern went 26-6, ranked 12th nationally. They made it to the Elite Eight. Tyrone had 18 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists in their final game, a heartbreaking 2-point loss in overtime. But something more important was happening beyond basketball. Schools started inviting him to speak. Youth organizations wanted him to mentor. One speaking engagement stood out: a suburban high school, mostly affluent kids. During Kenda, a girl in the front row raised her hand. "Mr. Matthews, I have a swimming championship next week, but my mom just got diagnosed with cancer. She starts treatment the same day as my meet. I don't know what to do." The gym went silent. Tyrone looked at this girl facing an impossible choice, and saw himself at 23 with 77 minutes, and an old man bleeding on a sidewalk. "What does your mom want you to do?" "She says swim. Says she doesn't want her cancer to steal my dreams." "And what does your gut tell you?" The girl's eyes filled with tears. "That I should be with her. That championships don't matter if I'm not there when she's scared." "Then you have your answer." Tyrone's voice was gentle but firm. "Championships come and go. Records get broken. Trophies gather dust. But the choice to be there for someone you love when they're facing the hardest thing they'll ever face, that matters forever." "But what if I never get another chance?" "Then you had a chance, and you chose something more important. And years from now, when you look back, you won't remember the race you didn't swim. You'll remember being there when your mom needed you." After the assembly, the girl approached. "Thank you. I'm going to be with my mom." "Good. And if you're fast enough to make championships now, you'll make others. But even if you don't, you'll know you put people before prizes." Senior year arrived with NBA scouts in the stands and professional prospects becoming real. Tyrone wasn't projected as a lottery pick, too old, his ceiling too obvious, but late first round, early second round, possible. The season was Tyrone's masterpiece: 18 points per game, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, leading Northwestern State to a 28-4 record and a number 6 national ranking. They made it all the way to the Elite Eight again before losing in overtime to Duke, the same team that had eliminated them 2 years earlier. Tyrone played 43 minutes, had 32 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, a triple-double in the biggest game of his college career. Proof that the long road from Maple Street to this moment had been worth every brutal step. After the season, the girl who'd chosen her mother's cancer treatment over swimming sent him an email. "Mr. Matthews, I wanted you to know, my mom is in remission. And I made the Olympic trials last year. Didn't make the team, but I made trials. But more importantly, I was there when mom needed me during treatment. Every appointment, every bad day. You were right. Thank you." Tyrone saved that email. Draft day arrived in June. Tyrone sat in his grandmother's living room, the same room where Earl had taught him about character, surrounded by family and friends. David and Robert Hartley were there. Robert was 81 now, moving slower but still sharp. When Tyrone's name was called, 42nd pick, Portland Thunder, the old man cried openly. "Thank you," Robert kept saying. "Thank you for stopping. Thank you for showing the world what matters." Coach Henderson was there too, retired now, watching his former player achieve what he'd once tried to destroy. "You did it, son. You made it all the way." "Not back," Tyrone corrected. "Forward. This is different. Better, the path I needed, not the path I wanted." Henderson smiled through tears. "Your father would be so proud." Professional basketball was everything Tyrone had worked for and nothing like he'd imagined. The athleticism was unreal. Men who'd been the best players in their countries, their conferences, their states, all competing at a level that made college ball look slow. Year 1, Tyrone came off the bench, 8 to 12 minutes per game, role player, energy guy. The rookie with the compelling backstory but limited upside. He worked harder than he'd ever worked in his life. By year 3, he'd earned more playing time. Solid rotation player, the guy coaches trusted in crucial moments. Not a star, but valuable. David, now the team's general manager, watched his progress with quiet pride. "You're exactly what this team needs. Leadership, intelligence, character." Off the court, Tyrone was careful with his money. Bought his grandmother a new house, modest, paid in full. Set up trust funds for future kids, invested conservatively. He'd seen too many players go broke. He also started going back to Maple Street every summer, running free basketball camps for neighborhood kids, teaching them fundamentals, yes, but also Earl Matthews's lessons about character, community, service. "Why do we box out for rebounds?" he'd ask the kids. "To protect our teammates," they'd chorus. "Right, and life's the same way. You take care of people who count on you." Year 4 brought a breakthrough. Portland made a surprise run to the conference finals. Tyrone played 25 minutes per game, averaging 12 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. They lost, but Tyrone had proven he belonged at this level. Year 5 brought the championship. Portland's title run was magical, and Tyrone was a key part. Not the star, never the star, but the steady hand that kept everything working. In the championship clinching game, Tyrone had 16 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, made the winning pass with 12 seconds left that set up the game-winning shot. When the buzzer sounded, when confetti fell, and teammates celebrated, Tyrone thought about Earl Matthews, about a Saturday afternoon 13 years ago, about the choice that had seemed like an ending but had actually been a beginning. Robert Hartley, now 83, frail but determined, was at the game. After the celebration, the old man made his way to the court. "I've lived 6 bonus years to see this," Robert said, gripping Tyrone's hands. "Thank you for stopping that day, for showing me that my life still mattered." Year 6, Tyrone made his only all-star team, not because of overwhelming talent, but because everyone recognized his value, his leadership, his impact. But something was changing. Portland's marketing department wanted to capitalize on Tyrone's story. They created campaigns around it. Character Counts merchandise, community programs bearing his name. At first, Tyrone was grateful. This was a platform to spread Earl's message, but gradually, insidiously, the message got twisted. It started small, a marketing executive suggesting he keep things positive during a community event. Focus on the inspiration, not the systemic issues. Then it grew, meeting with corporate sponsors where they asked him to avoid controversial topics in public appearances. "What topics?" Tyrone asked. "You know, criminal justice reform, economic inequality, police brutality, things that might alienate certain fan demographics. Those are the issues that matter most to the community that raised me. We understand, but we need to think about the brand." By year 7 the pressure had intensified. A new contract was on the table. 4 years, $68 million, life-changing money, generational wealth. but attached were detailed brand responsibilities. Tyrone sat in the general manager's office, not David's office anymore. David had moved to an advisory role, reading through the contract language. What does this mean? Athlete agrees to minimize public associations with economically disadvantaged areas. The new GM, a man named Richard Carlson, looked uncomfortable. It means we'd prefer you focus your community work on programs that align with our corporate partners. The West Side Rec Center programs you've been running, they're admirable, but they don't photograph well for our sponsors. Don't photograph well. Our sponsors want uplifting stories. Kids succeeding, not. Carlson trailed off. Not poor black kids from neighborhoods that make sponsors uncomfortable. Tyrone's voice was dangerously quiet. That's not what I said, but it's what you meant. Tyrone flipped through more pages. What else? Your speaking engagements. We'd need approval on topics and venues. Can't have you saying something that might alienate fan bases or sponsors. Like what? Like when you talked about economic inequality at Northwestern last month, or when you discussed housing displacement at the community forum. Those are politically sensitive. I'm talking about issues affecting real people, my people, and we're not asking you to stop caring about those issues, just to express them more carefully, through official team channels, with approved messaging. Tyrone stared at the contract, at the number $68 million, at the fine print that required him to stop being himself. I need time to think about this, of course. But Tyrone, this is an incredible offer, life-changing money. You'd be set for generations. I'm already set. My father taught me to live below my means. Then think about the platform, the good you could do with this kind of financial security. What good can I do if I'm not allowed to talk about what actually matters? Tyrone left that meeting feeling sick. He called David that night. They want me to be a product, Tyrone said, not a person. They want the story of the kid who helped the old man, but sanitized, inspirational, profitable. They don't want the actual me, the person who cares about Maple Street, who talks about inequality, who believes character matters more than championships. David was quiet for a long moment. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I'm 33 years old, at the peak of my career, making more money than I ever dreamed, and I'm miserable because I'm not allowed to be myself. So what are you going to do? Tyrone thought about Earl Matthews, about lessons learned at kitchen tables and in community centers, about the choice to stop that had defined his entire adult life. I'm going to walk away. Tyrone didn't announce his decision immediately. He played out year 7, honoring his existing contract, refusing to quit mid-season. But he made his intentions clear to management. This was his last season. At 34 in his prime, he was retiring. You're insane, Carlson said. You're walking away from at least $68 million, probably more. I'm walking away from a contract that requires me to stop being myself. Nobody's asking you to stop being yourself. You're asking me not to talk about poverty in my old neighborhood, not to discuss issues that matter to the people who made me, not to speak my mind on anything that might make sponsors uncomfortable. That's asking me to stop being myself. The media speculation was immediate when word leaked. NBA player plans early retirement. Theories ran wild: hidden injury, family issues, burnout. Tyrone let them speculate for a week. Then he gave one interview to a local reporter he trusted and told the truth. I'm retiring because I'm not allowed to be Tyrone Matthews anymore. I'm supposed to be a brand, a product, an inspirational story without any rough edges, and I can't do that. My father taught me that character matters more than success, and living with integrity matters more than money. He explained the contract requirements, the restrictions on his community work, the censorship of his speaking topics. I could take the money and be quiet, Tyrone said. A lot of people would, but then I'd be betraying everything my father taught me. Everything that moment 13 years ago stopping for Mr. Hartley meant. I chose character over convenience then. I'm making the same choice now. The interview went viral, 30 million views. The conversation expanded beyond basketball, athletes and ownership, commercialization of personal stories, the price of authenticity. Some people supported Tyrone. This is what integrity looks like. He's choosing his values over money. Incredible. Others thought he was foolish, walking away from $68 million. Stupid. He could take the money and do whatever he wants after retirement. Tyrone didn't engage with the debate. He just played basketball. His final season was his best. 21 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists per game, All-NBA third team, leading Portland to the playoffs. They made it to the second round before losing. In his final game, Tyrone had 27 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, a triple-double to end his career. In the locker room afterward, his teammates stood and applauded. "Thanks for showing us what matters," said Jackson Wheeler, Portland's star. "We'll miss you, but we respect the hell out of you." After the media left after his teammates departed, David found Tyrone sitting alone. "How do you feel?" "Relieved, sad, scared about what comes next, but certain I made the right choice." "You know what comes next." David sat beside him. "You go back to Maple Street. You coach at Westside like Henderson wanted. You teach kids what your father taught you. That's not going to pay like the NBA. You made enough in 7 years to live comfortably if you're smart with it. And knowing you, you will be." David squeezed his shoulder. "Besides, this isn't about money. It never was. What's it about? Legacy, real legacy. Not championships or all-star appearances, but lives changed, values passed forward, character multiplied through generations." Robert Hartley, now 86, using a walker but determined, came to Tyrone's final home game. After the standing ovation, Robert made his way slowly to the court. "Thank you," the old man said, gripping Tyrone's hands, "for stopping 13 years ago, for showing the world what matters, for never compromising who you are. You saved my life that day, and you've spent every day since teaching others how to live." "I learned from the best," Tyrone said. "My father, and you, and David, you all taught me that character is the only success that lasts. Now go teach that to the next generation." Robert said. "They need it more than we did." Tyrone became head coach of Westside Community College at 34 years old. Some people questioned whether he had enough experience. He proved them wrong immediately, but not through wins and losses, through transformation. Tyrone recruited differently than other coaches. He didn't just look at stats, he looked at character. Sought out kids who'd faced adversity, who'd made tough choices, who understood that basketball was a privilege, not a right. He built a culture around Earl Matthews's lessons. Practice wasn't just about drills, it was about life lessons woven into basketball fundamentals. "Why do we box out for rebounds?" "To protect our teammates, coach." "Right. And when you see someone who needs help, you stop, you help, always." Every player mentored at least 2 kids from local elementary schools. Team GPA was maintained above 3.0, highest in the program's history. 0 disciplinary issues. The team went 12-16 Tyrone's first season, but parents kept approaching with the same message. "I don't know what you're doing, but my son is different. More respectful, more focused, actually caring about his future." "Thank you." This was the work. Not wins and losses, but transformation. By his 3rd season the culture had solidified. The team went 24-6, made the regional playoffs. Perfect team GPA above 3.0. 400 volunteer hours per player. And the ripples kept spreading. Jordan Thompson, the high school kid who'd written Tyrone that letter years ago, about stopping to help his neighbor, was now playing Division I basketball at Northwestern State. He'd started his own mentorship program based on Tyrone's model. He came back to visit Tyrone during Christmas break, now 23 years old. "Coach, I wanted you to know, your story changed my life. That choice you made, it showed me what actually matters. And now I'm teaching high school kids the same lessons." The ripples just keep spreading. The foundation Tyrone had built continued to grow. By year 10, Westside had become known regionally not for championships, but for character development. Programs from other schools were copying his model. Tyrone also formalized the Earl Matthews Character Foundation, a nonprofit that trained coaches across the country on character-based athletics. David Hartley served as board chair until his death at 78. Robert had passed away 5 years earlier at 90, having lived 17 bonus years because Tyrone had stopped that Saturday. At Robert's funeral, David had told Tyrone, "My father said that saving his life wasn't your greatest gift. Teaching the world that character matters, that was the gift. He died knowing the world was a little bit better because you stopped." Marcus Garcia, the scout from Chicago who'd first noticed Tyrone in the underground circuits, now ran coaching clinics nationwide, teaching the West Side model. The girl who'd chosen her mother over swimming, she'd become a social worker, helping families navigate cancer treatment. She still emailed Tyrone every year on the anniversary of that conversation. Henderson passed away at 79, peaceful and at peace. At his funeral, Tyrone delivered the eulogy. Coach Henderson taught me basketball. But more importantly, he taught me that it's never too late to change, never too late to admit you were wrong, never too late to choose character over ego. In his final years he became the coach he'd always wanted to be. Then came the test that would prove everything. March year 20, Conference Tournament Championship Game. West Side vs. Eastern College. Winner advanced to nationals, huge for a community college program, career-defining for Tyrone, life-changing for his players. The game was tight. With 40 seconds left, West Side down by 2, Tyrone called timeout. His players huddled around him, desperate, eyes pleading for the play that would win the championship. But Tyrone wasn't looking at his players. He was looking 3 rows into the stands, where a woman was clutching her chest, her face gray with pain. People around her were panicking. Nobody helping, just frozen. Tyrone looked at his clipboard, at the play that could win the championship, at his players who'd worked all season for this moment. Then he looked at the woman who was probably having a heart attack. And Earl Matthews's voice was clear as a bell. How you stop shows who you really are. Timeout, Tyrone called, using their last timeout. Then he ran into the stands. His assistant coach Marcus Johnson, yes, named after Tyrone's old teammate, the cycle continuing, took over the huddle. Tyrone knelt beside the woman. "Ma'am, can you hear me? Someone call 911. The crowd noise faded to shocked silence. Tyrone stayed with the woman, Janet Morrison, grandmother of 4, keeping her calm while paramedics arrived. 5 minutes. 5 minutes while the ref waited, while his team stood confused, while the championship game hung in balance. When paramedics loaded Janet into the ambulance, Tyrone ran back to the bench. The officials were waiting. "Coach, we have to charge you with a technical foul for excessive timeout delay." "I understand." Eastern made the technical free throw, now down by 3 with 35 seconds left, and no timeouts. West Side lost, 74-71. In the locker room afterward, Tyrone expected devastation. Instead his star player, a kid named Jordan, yes, named after Jordan Thompson, the cycle continuing, stood up. "Coach, you just showed us what you've been teaching for 20 years, that some things matter more than winning. That woman's alive because you didn't hesitate. Yeah, we lost, but we won something bigger." Another player added, "My dad always told me winning was everything, but you showed us that's wrong. Some things matter more than any game. I'm proud to play for you, coach." The whole team nodded, tears flowing, all understanding what Tyrone had been trying to teach them. The story went viral within hours. By morning, 50 million views. Janet Morrison appeared on television 2 days later, healthy and grateful. "He saved my life. The doctors said I was having a massive heart attack. Another few minutes, and I would have died. He gave up a championship for me, a complete stranger." The National Basketball Coaches Association named Tyrone Coach of the Year, not for his win-loss record, but for his impact on student athletes and community. At the awards ceremony, Tyrone delivered a speech that encapsulated everything. 31 years ago, I was driving to a championship game, and I saw an old man fall on the sidewalk. Everyone kept walking, but I stopped, and that choice changed my entire life. Not because it made me famous or successful, but because it taught me who I wanted to be. Today, facing a similar choice, I made the same decision. Because character isn't something you choose once, it's something you choose every single day. And I'd rather lose 1,000 championships than win one by running past someone who needs help. 9 years later, Tyrone Matthews stood at his office window at West Side Community College. 63 years old now, with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes, but still showing up every day. The knock on his door was tentative. A kid, maybe 16, nervous. "Coach Matthews, can I talk to you?" "Of course, come in. What's your name?" "Earl." The kid smiled nervously. "Earl Thompson. I'm Jordan Thompson's son." Tyrone felt his breath catch. Jordan Thompson, the high school player who'd stopped to help his neighbor 40 years ago, who'd become a teacher and coach, who'd passed the lessons forward, and he'd named his son Earl, after Earl Matthews. The ripples just kept spreading. "What can I do for you, Earl?" "I have a big game Saturday. College scouts will be there, but my grandfather, Jordan's dad, he's really sick. In hospice. My dad says someone should be with him, but if I miss this game," and there it was. The same choice, presented to another generation. Tyrone looked at young Earl and saw himself at 23, saw Jordan at 16, saw every person who'd ever faced this impossible decision. What does your gut tell you? Earl's eyes filled with tears. That my grandfather needs me more than any scout needs to see me play. But Mr. Matthews, what if this is my only chance? Tyrone came around his desk, sat in the chair beside Earl. Let me tell you about my father. His name was Earl Matthews, same as yours. He taught me that character is what you do when it costs you something. That being there for people you love matters more than any achievement. That how you stop shows who you really are. But the scouts will still be there next month, next year. Scouts are always watching for players with talent and character. But your grandfather, this might be your last chance to show him he matters more than basketball. Tyrone squeezed the kid's shoulder. And years from now, you won't remember the game you missed. You'll remember being there when your grandfather needed you. Earl nodded. Decision made. I'm going to be with him. Good. And Earl, you're carrying a name that matters. Earl Matthews believed that community was family, that when someone needs help you help. You're living those values. That's worth more than any scout's attention. After the kid left, Tyrone sat alone, feeling the weight and privilege of legacy. His phone buzzed. A text from Jordan Thompson. My son just told me he's skipping his game to be with my father. Said you helped him make the decision. Thank you, coach. The lessons your father taught you, that you taught me, that I taught my son, they're eternal. They'll never stop spreading. Another message lit up Tyrone's phone, from Marcus Garcia. Coach, you probably don't remember me. I'm the scout who first met you in Chicago all those years ago. I'm 70 now, retired, but I wanted you to know something. I spent my career teaching young coaches that character matters more than talent, because of what you showed me. My grandson starts coaching next year. I'm teaching him your model. Thank you for changing how I saw the game. Tyrone stared at the screen, tears slipping down his face. Then the phone rang. Mr. Matthews, this is Nurse Patricia from Mercy Hospice. Mr. Thompson asked me to call. He wanted you to know his grandson is here, holding his hand, telling him about the choice he made all those years ago. He's at peace. And before he drifted off, he asked me to pass along one message: the lessons never die. Later Tyrone sat alone, as the messages kept coming, his jersey being retired, a scholarship bearing his name, a former player writing to thank him for teaching what truly mattered. He closed his eyes and heard his father's voice once more. How you stop shows who you really are. Tyrone had stopped, and in stopping he had begun something that would never end.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.